to appreciate about TLC. I've been involved in the organization more heavily, I think a few years ago. Now I'm a little bit on the peripheral. But I love doing this conference because I think that it's one of the few times that people in this community get together in a space that feels very safe and very non-threatening and very community-oriented. I really want to just preemptively give a thank you to the panelists. The panelists this year are a little bit different than kind of who we've had come speak in the past, because they are folks just like us, just like you, who have made a commitment to furthering their digital literacy skills and have taken advantage and participated in a lot of the programs that the city offers. So my goal at the end of this panel is for you to have, I think, a clearer sense about what programs are offered by various organizations in the city, how you can go about taking advantage of them, and just kind of what's the value add and potentially some of the challenges of any of us at any age in any stage of life kind of dipping our toes back into the digital literacy environment. And I hope that this comes across as just a very friendly and informal conversation around what these folks have kind of started to do in their lives. So we're gonna start by just kind of giving each of these folks a few minutes to kind of introduce themselves, tell their story, give a little bit of an overview of who they are, where they're coming from, how they got here, how they feel about digital literacy, and then we'll dive into some questions. So let's just have Rachel start.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rachel Honore. I am from People's Emergency Center. I represent Action for Early Learning. I'm the mother of a 5-year-old, healthy, energetic baby boy. Well, he's not a baby anymore, but autistic child who's nonverbal. And being a first-time mother, having a child, just being a mother, period, but having that extra layer of special needs presents so many, is a walk of faith, I should say. But in this walk, you've got an uphill battle to fight, let's say. So in trying to navigate all the different layers that come with being a mother, one huge thing for us was being able to find a medium in which my son could communicate, in which we were able to help him communicate and to have us communicate with him. So digital inclusion, digital technology has been huge in our lives in a sense that it's been multi-layered. It's been layered in a sense where not only does he have a medium in which to communicate and not feel frustrated and be able to just get through a day, but we are compelled to also learn from the communication structured by the technology. So the whole family dynamic has changed in the sense that we're being propelled forward towards learning this technology, and others who come past them, let's say we're taking a Disney World trip and we may use this program for assistive technology. It has helped us in so many ways in terms of getting us closer and closer to using those tools of communication, not only for my son, but for just being able to be technologically savvy for my whole family and whoever comes into runnings with Jonathan or whoever crosses his path. It has been such a blessing for us, and we're just looking forward to this next chapter in our lives and to this next step with technology.
Great.
Hi, I'm Rick, and my story is a little simpler. Thank you, Shane, for being here. My story is a little simpler. I grew up here in Philadelphia for the most part, and we came from down south. And when I was young, I came up to raised in North Philadelphia in a small street, small little house. And at a young age, I started getting involved with a lot of gang activity. At that point, Philadelphia was saturated with gangs in all of the different small neighborhoods and all. And so I wound up getting involved with a lot of our gang members. My parents, who were very, very adamant about getting a good education because we came from down south. So they knew that education was very important. So were very, I guess you could say they were successful regarding keeping me on track regarding education, even though I wanted to get off, hang out with my friends during the gang activities. So they moved me into Joe Frazier's boxing gym, which was not far from our community, to keep me away from some of the activities that I wanted to get involved with as a child. And they were successful because many of the men, the boys at that time that I grew up with, by the time they were 14, 15, 16 years old, they had either committed a murder and was in prison for the rest of their lives, or a lot of them had been killed. So although I survived that era in coming up in North Philadelphia, 20 years later, my behaviors that I learned through those activities wind up catching up to me. And I wind up being convicted of aggravated assault. And I was I did 20 years in prison before I was released. So when I come out, one of the things that really concerned me was, how am I going to catch up with the world as it is today? And I went to a few of the reentry programs, and sure enough, they suggested that I go to Philadelphia Fight because they had computer classes which would help me kind of catch up with what's going on. Because when I left, there weren't any smartphones or cell phones or tablets or laptops. And in prison they don't have those type of training, to help with those things. You're not allowed to use internet or social media in prisons.
Sure.
Just recently, over the last year and a half, maybe, they allowed tablets at a very limited opportunity. You can do some emailing now, and we're talking 2016. So when I come home, someone suggested to look into Philadelphia Fight, and I'm so thankful that they did, because when I came home, I was intimidated. I was very concerned about, how am I going to catch up? Am I going to ever get a job? And with the program at Philadelphia Fight, I'm much more confident now, and I'm so thankful for that.
Patricia, it's all you.
Hi, it's Patricia, but I like to be called Pat. I'm from Kensington, and technology has always been scary to me. Still is scary. And I'm a retired city worker, 34 years, and used that computer on the job, but only what I had to. Then when I got an assistant, I would delegate to my assistant, so I wouldn't have to get into all the programs that are coming up daily. And at home, I volunteer a lot, and I'm finding more and more at the jobs that I volunteer. One is a food pantry I run in Kensington. It's at a church. I try to do a lot of work with churches. They're closing them left and right, not selling them, not opening them. They're just closing them. And I try to work in the community, but I find that technology, I need to expand it more. I belonged to the Luthern Settlement House Senior Center for years, and mostly I just participated in trips, exercise programs, what have you. And then I had a couple of my friends, they're younger ones, try to answer some of my questions on the computer and the new technology that constantly is coming down and being upgraded. What I have one day is gone the next day, and I found it very frustrating. So I joined the computer classes at Luthern Settlement House this past March. And boy, some of the things I've learned. One of the things that our instructor said about changing our password, every 6 months. I've had the same one for 20 years.
So that's a good lesson for everyone here, change your password. Also, don't have the same password for everything.
I've become more secure and a little bit, I try to do things now on the computer other than touch. I don't Facebook, I don't Twitter, it's strictly the email. And then my word where I write letters of the people that are really aggravating, you're not doing enough for the city or my kids or anything. So technology, I have to admit now, I have to go that way. And sometimes, it was very scary, but like I said, going to a class and then feeding out those questions that I have. I mean, I recommend any kind of organization that you could go to because, as I said, what I have today, tomorrow it's a new program, and it's difficult. So, let's give it a
Hey everybody, my name is Jermaine Morrison. I'm from here in Philadelphia. I'm a high school student. I've been taking classes at PhillyCAM in their youth media classes for close to 2 years now. I originally went because, one day I was just walking and I saw the big building that just said PhillyCAM. So I went in because I wanted to learn more about filmmaking and, working on television because that's what I wanted a career in. From there, I met a lot of different people who also wanted different, art-based careers. Graphic artists, singers, rappers, all different people. And I've noticed that every single path has, in some way or form, had to do with technology. Made them had to learn more about it. Made them had to kind of, my generation is kind of almost born into it in a way. I'm late, so I was born in the late 90s. There are people in my generation who remember the very early stages of the internet, who have gone from that to now gone to pretty much walking around with computers in their pockets. We have to kind of, as you said, things get outdated so quickly. Because of where we are on that timeline, we have to stay current. We have to, make sure we know what we're doing, make sure we know what we're talking about, and stay up to date and everything.
So I think that's a really, that was a really wonderful way, I think, to set the tone for kind of who we're hearing from and how everyone got kind of hooked up to technology. And I appreciate ending on Jermaine because I actually, I want to talk a little bit about how kind of your age and your generation to all four of you kind of affected your approach to technology, how you felt about approaching technology. Rick and Pat kind of both talked about this idea of being scared and being a little intimidated about technology, whereas Jermaine, as a late 90s kid, grew up with it, and I think probably potentially didn't have that same sense of trepidation and that same nervousness and fear about kind of moving into a technology space. So Rachel, can you talk a little bit about kind of how you felt about adopting technology kind of in your age and in your space, and then we'll hear from the other folks as well.
So for me, I am progressive in terms of technology. However, the way that it presented for my son because of his situation and autism, because technology is in some ways and in some arenas discouraged. And so the fear that it may take place of human touch, it may take this artificial intelligence scares a lot of people away. So I kind of had to take that out of the equation and look at the positive sides and look at the benefits. Once I was able to see how technology was used as that medium to help him through programs, just express itself, just be able to get through the frustration, just be able to communicate, then my attitude changed very quickly. So that just, yeah,
That's great.
As for me, technology was kind of, I think the media played a part for me in regard to me being a little intimidated because we had heard that, you know, so many different things would happen. People's IDs were being taken and all kinds of negative things. And the media at that point was portraying the positive things in regard to the technology. And so for me, I kind of was, well, maybe I don't need it, you know, but really it was the fact that I was a little intimidated because it was moving so fast and I didn't have an idea or understanding of how it could benefit me or my family. Because there's a lot of people in my family, older people in my family. I didn't experience what I experienced and still don't be involved with you know, the new technology. So I think with me, that was the most important part that you know, I didn't think it would be beneficial and it was too dangerous to be involved with.
Sure.
So those are my feelings exactly, because like I said, the media, which I have my paper in hand every day with my coffee, and what I read, I'm saying there's constantly hacking, and then the identity theft is the biggest scariest thing out there. And like I'm saying, what do I want to put on that internet? And how much, and my husband does nothing. He's not, you know, he's 80, he doesn't even know how to turn my computer on. My son, he sent me an email, I forget what it was, and he said, open this up, and there was my husband, John Walden, and had all this information on it. And I'm saying, now, how does that come about? And then a house next door to me was up for, what do you call it, sheriff's sale, I think. And it was down in Texas, but when I pulled it up, there was mostly my house with the, you know, the nice garden in front and the storm door. And the one that was on sale didn't look like my house. And I'm saying, how are they doing this, you know? And I don't know, and that's why I'm saying I need to, again, get out there and listen what my instructor has, to find out the other groups that I've taken literature from. I think it's fantastic because being in my community and working with the food pantry, I have so many people unemployed, no benefits, and you know where to go. So I need to educate myself more than I have done so far.
I think for people in my generation, I think they kind of saw that there was a bit of a change coming. I think they already seen from previously the fear that your generation previously had. Because I can remember, I think as early as about 4th, maybe 3rd grade, we already started having computer science classes where, and I remember, and it was really weird to me, like we would go in, like they would actually like quiz us and like teach us, you know, how to use computer, how to look certain stuff up, how to research information, how to use different programs. So I think we definitely, from an early age, had to kind of learn how to adapt to it, you know, learn how to make it a part of our lives.
So I think that one of the important things that I heard kind of coming out of those comments is, at least personally, when I think about technology classes and digital literacy and access, a lot of it tends to be focused on how do you use something? How do I log on to Facebook? How do I send an email? How do I pay my taxes? But there's this whole other side of what digital literacy is, and I think kind of what the community is looking for that's around the education component. And I think there was a really common thread around feeling like there were all these unknowns, and there's still this scariness of putting your information out there and how is it protected and what's true and what's not. And I think just kind of throughout the rest of today, and when you guys are going back into your offices and into your lives, I think that's an important part of the digital literacy story that we kind of have to continue to think about, is making sure that we're not only teaching people how to use the tools, but how to use them safely, and what are the myths and what are the truths around not just the information that we're putting out there, but like in Rachel's instance, how can technology really enhance our lives and not kind of replace other sorts of interactions and communication and that sort of thing. So to kind of jump off of that, can each of you share maybe an anecdote of when you felt like you kind of had a technology breakthrough, whether it was like you learned a new program and thought it was super awesome, or, you know, like in Pat's case, she made a few references to like she heard something from her instructor that just really sparked kind of like a moment of clarity. So let's start with Jermaine on this one.
All right. First thing I can remember. I think I might have been in 8th or 7th grade, right? Again, we were in computer science class, and we had to. She was trying to do 2 things in one. A, she wanted us to learn Excel. B, she wanted us to start learning about stocks. So, literally every morning when we came in, we had to, like the do now, like that first little work thing you do when you come in, was to, you had to pick 3 different companies that you wanted to look at what their stocks were. I think mine was like Verizon, Apple, and it might have been Google, might have been, I'm not sure. And I remember every single one we had to go in and we had to input whether it was going up or it was going down. And I remember for the first month she had to do this, I had no idea what I was doing. I oftentimes had to look over to my friend who was sitting next to me and ask him for help. He only slightly knew what he was doing. And one day we kind of just figured it out, but it kind of took that time to really learn about it and really, because it was something that at that point we had never even thought we would need to use. You know, it was something that was almost alien to us, but we had to kind of keep, you know, trying at it until we figured it out.
And that's my fear of that Excel. That's really pushed me overboard because my master list is done on Excel. And the young lady, I do all the heavy labor in the food pantry, you get that ordering done and the stocking, what have you. But then we did it all to me. And there I am with Excel. I have July, now I need to change that to August, and it's telling me about my cells. Now what do I know about a cell? And then I have to insert these 10 new applicants. I'm saying, what am I going to do about the other 60? Am I going to lose them when I start eating cells? So, I mean, Excel is still frightening to me. And it's been around a long time because I remember the reports that I would give to my assistant. She would throw on Excel and say, here.
Yeah.
And she says, and any corrections you need, then, so as a matter of fact, it just took me 5 hours to do October's Excel list with it's the additions and deletions, but I'm afraid I'm losing the people I already have on there. So, I think by December I'll have a handle.
Okay, so the breakthrough is coming. You're confident.
Not confident yet. Check me in November, maybe November.
And is there something, so we're gonna have a future breakthrough with Excel. Is there anything that you have already accomplished?
They'll upgrade it.
Yeah, the upgrades.
And there'll be more problems for me. But I'm just getting there, because like I said,
Sure.
I never used these programs. All these programs have been available on my computer. And at work they were available, but I only would pull up the ones that I was knowledgeable of. The Word document to write my letters or to write a report. But
Sure.
like I said, that Excel out there, that's used prominently.
Well, we're gonna have you back at next year's TLC to tell us
My
how
Excel sheet.
you now know how to use Excel. Rick, what about you? Is there kind of your breakthrough moment or?
I'm sitting here thinking about that, but to be perfectly honest, breakthrough was the fact that when I went to fill up the fight and got into the class learning the basics on how to operate a cell phone. That was a breakthrough for me.
That's another one that's
I looked at a cell phone and I just couldn't figure it out. I didn't know how to use it, cut it on. There was nothing I understood about it. And so the breakthrough for me was when I was able to make a phone call and started using some of the apps on the cell phone, my confidence increased. But more importantly, you just motivated me because you talking about Excel, and I'm just beginning to study Word. So she has truly helped me, because now I want to learn Excel too.
I have a smartphone. I only text and call it. I might snap a picture.
And Rachel, same question.
So, in Jonathan's communication, there's ABA therapy in which there's a picture exchange system. So, Jonathan was getting a little bit beyond that. He picks out a picture, hands you what he wants, and then you repeat it to him. So beyond that, we were having issues with brushing teeth and doing routine stuff and going to the doctors. So, because my dad's a retired minister and, you know, we were heavily into the church, he loves the Word Network. In fact, that's almost all he loves, and TD Jakes. So now we've used a picture reward system on his tablet so that when he brushes his teeth, I have taken all the pictures off of his video and put them on our charts. So he knows that if we're changing things, his reward is to get 5 minutes of TD Jakes, or if we're brushing teeth and we're eating veggies, we're using TD Jakes as that medium as a reward system. So, and to the doctors, I'll show them the pictures and there are different images of TD Jakes pointing or whatever. So now he's just always using this as his microphone, and he knows that when we have to brush teeth or when we're going to doctors, it's a good prep up for us. So that was my breakthrough.
So there was certainly, I think, a theme in those comments around kind of not giving up and the fact that it takes a long time to either learn a new program, figure out how to use a cell phone, come up with a system that works for your son. I think probably most of us in this room have kind of gone through the struggle of trying to learn a new device or a new program and just really feeling like it's so challenging and you might never get there. So I hope that that was, it felt like that was very inspirational, that, we're all gonna power through and learn these things that have been kind of quite challenging for us. And I would ask, kind of besides having like the personal drive to do this, which you all should be highly commended for, like that, internally not giving up on yourselves. Are there things that you feel like technology programs and instructors and classes can do to encourage folks to not give up and to enroll and to participate? I think that's kind of the flip side of this, is that when you're struggling with learning something and it's scary and it's hard, you just sometimes give up and you stop coming to your class and you stop showing up. So do you have any tips or advice for the people who are running the programs about how they can encourage people to not give up and continue to come and continue to participate and kind of push through those walls? Rachel, I did. Go ahead.
Having a balance, still being able to show like that next, what's innovative, but being able to be interactive about it, making it fun, being silly about it, just showing that, just being creative, just not having too much of it being, tipping the scale, but just still making it interactive.
From my perspective, being involved with a lot of reentry. I don't know if everyone knows, but there's a lot of people that will be coming up for parole and release from the new United States Supreme Court decisions a year or two ago. Juvenile life are all being released. And I had the opportunity to associate with those guys. And you would be surprised how much they have changed and matured from the time that they committed their crimes. But one thing that we have in common is that we tend not to trust a lot of people. And one thing I learned about Philadelphia Fight when I went there is that the staff were non-biased. They helped you 100% regardless of your background, where you came from, and they were totally concerned about you learning the devices and learning digital literacy. So one piece of advice I can say without thinking about it a lot is simply the organizations need to be aware and cognizant of who they hire for those positions, because guys, like I said, that are re-entering society already come to your organizations with a kind of unsurety, a distrust. So to have good instructors, not only knowing the devices and digital literacy well themselves, but to also have an open arms policy where that they don't have any biases, and they can, I think they can reach those guys. And they'll give back to the community. They have a desire to give back to the community because of the opportunities that they now get.
Well, I've only just started in March, but I have a very good instructor that is patience. Patience is really because, no offense, but us seniors, we have back in our mind the old way of how things are done. And the old way when a computer came to being, sometimes we find out that, why do I have to do this way? But the instructor will just come to us in layman's terms. And that's the crux. Be able to talk to me so I can understand you. Those layman's terms to the people sitting in that chair with that little computer, we need it, and the patience they have. And like I said, right now I have a very patient instructor. Only been through one. I hope I don't lose them, but because I have tested his patience sometimes. Like I said, with seniors, we want to comprehend exactly, why are you telling me this? Why do I have to change this? And then he'll walk us through it. Because like, I used to have a young lady who would help me. She was very good. She'd come around if I had a problem, but she just zipped through that problem. I had no idea how she corrected it. And then it was something that would come every couple of months and say, I don't want to call her again. Because I couldn't understand it over the phone. I needed the person to sit in front of me and show me step by step. And like I said, it's the patience and the layman's terms is what I look for, and that's what I'm getting at. It worked out good going there because I was shopping around with the little neighborhood booklet saying, where can I find somebody?
People do read them.
Yes.
Jermaine, how about you?
I think, yeah, all that got is similar as that patience, because I think the thing you really have to kind of work through is that fear that these students might have. Not only just, your generation might have, that little, might be a little bit apprehensive about it, but even people in my generation are still a little bit scared about the way things progress so rapidly. There are even, some programs that I've opened up recently and looked at it, and I have no idea what I'm doing with this, because it just looked more advanced and more different than what I was used to using. And that fear can be very crippling to some students because they don't really know how to move forward with it. They don't really know what to do with it. So you kind of have to work with that fear to, help move them forward.
Okay, we're gonna stay with you, Jermaine. So now to slightly kind of reverse that question, we heard that it's important that on the part of the digital literacy program and of the organization that instructors and programs are creative, that they're creating a space for trust, that they're patient, and that they're explaining things, I think, in really clear terms and kind of giving reasons why something is working and why we need to do it that way. What do you think is important for participants, for other people like yourselves to keep in mind as they're going through these programs? So Jermaine, let's hear from you.
Important to keep in mind.
Kind of advice, let's phrase it that way.
I guess the real thing is kind of keeping back in your head that this is where the world is at this point, and it's going to keep moving in that direction. Things aren't really going to stop, move backwards and regress. It's always going to be progress. It's always going to keep going. It's always going to keep getting bigger. It's always going to keep getting different. It's always going to be something that you're not going to be sure of and not going to really know. And you're always going to have to kind of keep learning and keep growing as technology grows. You kind of have to move as it moves. I know that sounds a little bit weird. It kind of sounds like it's forcing us to move with it, but the way everything is set up is if you want to stay connected with everybody else, that is the way it works. The world can only stay together if everybody stays with it.
Great. I think the big thing is asking questions. A lot of us sometimes just feel, that's a kind of stupid question I'm going to put out there. How's it going to be accepted? So I just want to, don't be afraid of the instructor or the person next to you. When they ask the question, if you don't know the answer, then you just raise your hand and you tell the instructor, someone is asking this question, and you satisfy my answer. Because a lot of us are maybe intimidated, because like I'm saying, computer's been around a long time, but I'm just catching up. And I'm being not made to catch up, but just with everything you do, when you call Comcast, they say, we have a wait of 5 minutes, you can go on www.comcast.
Yeah.
Which I never do. I wait for that human.
I wait for the human being also.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. Rick, how about you?
That is good to hear.
Yeah.
Because I do the same thing too.
But I think the thing that I would have to keep in mind, and that I speak to a lot of people in my generation, 15 to 64, is basically what Jermaine said. The young folk, I get an opportunity to speak to the young folks sometimes, and they gave me this phrase: "It is what it is."
Well, that's where I got it from.
So I explained that to people in my circle, my age group.
Yeah.
You have to learn because it's going the other way, and it's not going to stop. Like you said, it's going to continue in that way, and so we have to kind of catch up. You know what I mean, and get on board.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So that's basically what I think.
Great.
Based off what Jermaine and Rick were saying, I don't take for granted that other people are doing that. So I may be a little extreme as a mother, like the janitor at my son's school. I've given him a little booklet if he happens to, have crossings with Jonathan, along with a little teeny tab that I give to them to know how to communicate with Jonathan, just so they know. I'm just so into now wanting people to understand us, wanting people just to bring people into our world, and that kind of is like an example for him to showing people how to come into his world as well. So just not taking that for granted and just knowing that people may need a little bit more time, and also extending myself, not feeling intimidated to go out there and say, hey, this is where we're at, we want to make this work. We want you to be a part of our experience, and if they allow us, just to go for it.
That's great. So I think it's interesting to hear in those comments, wanting to, the importance of, I think, on both sides being open. So wanting to advocate for being able to have your story be told, wanting to advocate for your community and saying, like, this is how it's the most effective for you to communicate with me and communicate with us. And then also on the flip side, recognizing though that technology isn't going anywhere, and that, whether, even if you're a slow adopter, we hope that you become and a doctor, because it's important that we all are kind of able to move forward in some capacity together. So I think that that is a really lovely sentiment to kind of end the formal questions on. I'm sure some of you here have some questions for our panelists. So I'm gonna open it up. My only comment, I suppose, is to please make sure that your question is really applicable to the whole group. So if you feel like you have a question that is very specific, that just involves you and one of the panelists, please hold that for a conversation to happen later in the day. Will you guys be able to stick around for a few minutes afterwards? Okay, so they'll be around if you feel like you have a question that might be a little more one-on-one. So, yeah, let's do it. Who has a question? Yeah?
Cool. I guess I'm wondering, kind of, for where you are now, what seems like the most urgent need or question you have around kind of media literacy and technology, like something you're either bumping up against or you've heard that you kind of want to tackle?
The hotspot. And he tends to, I know I get upset when my hotspot is interrupted. So just being able, patience is a huge thing. And for us, in general, you know, when our hotspot is messed up, we get a little upset. Just imagine the little one that's, you know, we're smooth sailing, and then boom. So patience, I guess, comes out of it for us. It's huge. It doesn't seem like it's much, but it totally is.
And I'm trying to get comfortable with the acceptance of technology's here. It's not going anywhere, and it's growing, and I need to grow with it.
I think pretty much I do some paralegal work, and so learning the different apps and the Word program is very, very significant for me right now.
I think for me, it's just how to apply it in different situations. You know? How can I make this? How can I use it? You know, to further what I'm trying to do, and what I know others are trying to do.
Other questions? Yeah.
Thank you for all of you shared today. My question has to do with how you think your experiences as children in the classroom impact the learners that you are today.
What was that again?
Yeah, so so now you guys are adult students, and I'm wondering how your experience as like young students, like children, impacted how you learn now.
It definitely impacted me. Had it not been for my parents being so adamant in getting an education, I think I probably would not have come to Philadelphia Fight or any organization for that matter in regard to learning the digital literacy and the things that I needed to progress. Simply because I was already intimidated, you know what I mean? And so I knew it would have been far much more had it not been for me learning and studying and being comfortable in school as I was a child.
I'm just trying to catch up to the children. They know more than me. I think that was a push when I see like my nieces and nephews and like you said, third grade, they were bringing computers in. And I'm in my 70s. And when the computer first came to the office, the city of Philadelphia, I really didn't want that sucker in my office. And I did not realize when I would go to my email, maybe once a week or so, and at one time I'm there bright and early, and so was the executive director, and I said, oh, let me open this up. And he's in his office going, oh, Pat opened her email today. I did not know that he could put a little checkbox. It has been read. So, and then I had to do it daily, so I wouldn't get the embarrassment of my boss yelling out the door. But the children today are just, they're so fast on it. And I guess that is the push I got, that getting out there, Pat, and learn a little bit more.
Have any of you ever thought of some trick or some question or something you could say to the people that you're learning from that will make you more comfortable learning from them and realizing perhaps that they might be struggling with some new thing too?
I know in this technological age, it's a struggle to, especially with the generations that are, the recent generations, it's a struggle to have patience and because you're able to get onto so many websites, instant gratification. So the waiting part or the process in between is virtually non-existent. So being able to have that person, which is, the teacher for me, which usually comes from like the millennial generation, getting able to have them step back and look at the process is what I found to be very fortuitous.
I kind of made it like a challenge with a lot of the younger folk in my family, and even with a couple of my instructors. I tell them, listen, I need you. You gotta keep going ahead. You gotta keep struggling. I need you. So I always encourage them. You know what I mean? Because I want them to know that I'm going to learn from them and I'm going to rely on them. And your family members, of course, they want to help you out. So I'm like, listen, have you heard of any new apps? Put me down with some new apps. What's going on? So they always get excited about that, and I sense that they're encouraged to me.
I'm still working my instructor in.
So if you do come to a point where even the instructor kind of doesn't understand, I think the most, at that point, the most easiest thing that they can do is research with you, like figure it out with you. And so that way, not only are you now learning, but now they are. So now, in case somebody else has this problem, they can now teach it, even more efficiently.
That's exactly something that I did want to mention. Sometimes I ask the young folk who are my instructors about something I may not be nowhere near, but it's a question that I have about a particular technology or a particular app, or is there an app to do this or do that? And they've said several times, you know what, I never thought of it, I don't know. And that's exactly what they do. They say, go look it up, we'll research it. And so I found that was another motivation that helped me when it comes to asking dumb questions. I found out that my dumbest questions are the ones that motivate them. It just won't work better.
That's what I mean about the process, just being able to build up the capacity to do that, because you're having information just at the button, and sometimes it just takes that forward research beyond.
Andy?
Yeah. I was busy tweeting, so hopefully I didn't miss this question. Anyway, I wanted to know, we're in a room full of people organizations that do a lot of training across all the different generations and have a lot of programming out there. But we often think we know what's best for people that we're training, that what they want and need to know. But can you let us know, across this very varied panel we have here, what is something that you would really love to have training on, or something you would really love to know that someone could offer training on that would be really helpful? Or something maybe you struggled through with learning on your own, but would have been more helpful if you had someone to walk you through it?
Oh, you know my answer.
Yeah, that's true.
Those cells, where are those cells going?
Yeah,
I asked just recently, 8, 10 people, and I guess I could ask it to you guys today. I was on the internet, and I'm interested in learning after I finish Word. I'm interested in learning Excel and PowerPoint and Outlook and all of those other apps. And I ran into something. It's called IC3. And so I started asking, 10, 12 different people, instructors as well, and many of them weren't familiar with it at all, and some of them had never heard of it. And so that's something that I'm interested in. And I'm wondering if some of the organizations would also, do any of the organizations offer it for free? You know, I know a lot of education is, you know, offered, but a lot of it is quite expensive, and I wouldn't be able to afford it. You know, so I was wondering if some of the organizations could offer that. IC3, for those that don't know, is I think it's Internet and Computer Fundamental Specialist or something to that, to that effect. And, it's kind of like what I'm interested in learning. You know, to be proficient with, you know, using the internet and the different Microsoft Office programs and so forth. And so when I asked instructors, a lot of work very familiar with. There's only a few that even knew about it.
Simple and basic searching organizations, being able to get those organizations that you may not be able to find in the search button, being able to simply find programs in which you're able to do your resume on your own, because the way that you have time demands and time constraints, and you're handling and juggling balance and family may be a little bit harder. So just those typical things that can further you in terms of furthering jobs or furthering advancement, or just, like I was saying, Elwin has a resource guide 2017. Being able to find that online and being able to search what I, you know, where I need to go, and then getting it would save so much time.
Any questions from this? Yeah.
I just wanted to share something. Just scrolling through Facebook on here, and this is like sometimes like I'll just go sit and have a cup of coffee and I won't have my phone with me. It's very unusual. But somebody posted here, I saw a guy at Starbucks today. No iPhone, no tablet, no laptop. He was just sitting there drinking coffee like a psychopath. It was just funny. It's very rare because I'm always on.
That's what I'm learning. I'm learning now today, as we grew up. You know, that was normal. But I'm learning today that that's kind of weird.
Well, and I think to something that Rachel was saying earlier, you know, we want to be cognizant that like having a phone and having Facebook and having email, none of that should, I mean, it's my hope that obviously none of that ever becomes a stand-in for face-to-face, real-life communication. And I think that that's the, you know, so my grandparents are on email and Facebook, and it's, in many instances, has become easier for me to communicate with them through email. Like, I'm at a desk all day, I can shoot them a note, we can check in. And my grandparents still are like, you haven't called me in so long. And I'm like, oh, I just sent you these emails. And like, oh, that email. And you know, they live in New York, so I'm not, it's not like we're not able to see each other that frequently. But you know, I think all of us kind of have to be respectful of recognizing that, like these folks have said, we're all at different stages in that technological journey, and you know, calling is still where many people are comfortable, and it's maybe soon we'll be emailing, but like I can, like, you know, my grandparents don't text, like that's crazy. So you know, I think finding these areas of common ground where we're able to communicate with people in ways that are convenient and safe, but that also make everyone feel included, is a really important part of this conversation. So I think we probably have time for one more. Yeah, let's do it.
Last but not least, how would you feel, I just want to ask this question again, I work at CareerLink, and we do have computer classes going on, and I see the computer classes growing and growing at our center, from the Northwest CareerLink Center. But I wanted to ask, how do you feel when you're learning for the first time with computers and being in another group of people that may be more advanced where you are? Is that intimidating, or do you feel that's helpful when being in a class of people that may be at a different pace or different level than when you are?
Well, my group, we sort of help each other. They're very some questions I would have in the beginning, and then I brought some of my stuff that I knew expertise, and then I helped them. So we're a small group, but I've never been intimidated. But like I said, some of the questions I feel I hesitate to ask my instructor, saying, it sounds dumb to me, how's it going to come out? But now I'm comfortable asking those questions. So my group, they work with me because I volunteer a lot. So I'm either late getting to class but they fill me right in. So it's a working group.
I was gonna say, it could be a little bit more efficient to have, people of different, levels of, ability while you're there. Because, sometimes it is easier to ask another student than it is to ask a teacher. Sometimes you don't know how it is when it's gonna come out. Sometimes it's just easy to be like, hey man, you know how to do this, be able to just get through it and get right back on track, without having to think, oh, now I gotta hold up the whole class because I don't know what I'm doing, feeling like, that,
I love it. I love it. It's intoxicating for me. I love being around knowledge and people and those people who have it. Normally, I haven't run into too many people that are like, they're just always, they enjoy it. Naturally, I feel like sometimes humans are teachers and we're all teachers, and so I just find it really, really, it draws me, it drives me to have people who, it's like powerful. So I love it. I don't hold back.
As for me, I think that would probably be, from my position, that would probably be a little more intimidating, simply because, like for example, the classes that I'm in, most of the people around my age, all of them have the common thread of not knowing anything about cell phones and computers. So we're comfortable with each other. We're able to ask any and everything because the teacher is willing to be patient with us. And so we won't feel, we won't have the embarrassment. At one point, I was asked so many questions that I thought that, I was getting the student graduated, you know what I mean? But I mentioned that one time in the question. I said, I know I'm, holding everybody else up and apologize. They said, no. The questions that you're asking are the questions we want to ask. We just want to ask you anyway. You know what I mean? So I think with people that may be in a different age group or have been in society for such a long time, it might be a little bit more intimidating for me. So being in a class of the people, of a period where they don't know very much, I think I learned better.
Yeah, it gives me excuses to bring cookies.
Everyone now wants to be in a class of girls.
I want to be in her class. Do you know Excel?
Okay, so I think on that note, we're going to wrap up officially this panel. It was an incredibly enjoyable conversation for me. I think the panelists all brought a really unique and really important perspective to the table.